This is your City Council Roundup, a recap of what's happening at City Hall with John Ongaro. The views expressed in this program are solely of those of the host and not necessarily those of the radio station or its partners.
And away we go. Stay tuned. If you missed it last night, you'll be scratching your head at the end just like I was last night. A meeting was on time, 6:37 start time. First up, a presentation by Graham Ingram, and President and Chief Executive Officer, and Gary Woodbeck, Chair of the Thunder Bay International Airport Authority. They had some good news and some exciting progress to announce. The airport brought in revenues of $14.25 million last year and had, get this, 101,080 takeoffs and landings. I know this because I was on about 10 of those, and over 728,000 people got on a plane last year. That's a lot. Coming up, some big changes on the way for the airport, a 4,000 square foot extension to the departures area with a new restaurant and bar, updating the check-in counters and space, expansion to another 200 parking spots, and a new security expansion, too, on the way, doubling the size to get you through faster. All that along with a new logo and identity coming up. A great update last night from the International Airport. Next, your council is getting a raise. That's right, kids. A report from City Council's Human Resources Department recommends the adjustment to City Council's remuneration for 2025. This adjustment, proposed to be effective retroactively to January 1st of this year, follows an established guideline that came out back in 2018. The recommended increase for 2025 is 1.1%. It's not a lot. The financial impact of this adjustment factored into the 2025 budget already. The total impact on the budget, $6,814.27. Let me say that again before people freak out about how much we're spending on salaries. The total increase to salaries, all of them combined, $6,814.27. That means each councillor will get a yearly raise of $361.05, and the mayor gets a raise too of $1,098.27. If you do the math, councillors will get about $12 more on a check, and the mayor about $40 more. It's not a lot, but in the exercise, Councillor Gatuga felt the need to point out that everyone thinks councillors make too much money, but there are a lot of people listed in the report presented last night, including board of directors from other organizations that do much less work that get paid a lot more than that. Not sure what the point of that was. Maybe he'd like to join one of those boards. That was it, though. 1.1% increase approved. Works out to pretty much next to nothing.
That retroactive pay from January for those cancel, that's going to be through the roof.
Yeah,
my goodness.
A good $30-$40 you're going to make off of that.
All right.
Finally, we move along quickly to the James Whalen tugboat, the gift that keeps on giving. And last night it came up yet again for yet another change of plans. And then something happened that should concern you because it concerned me. The corporate report presented by administration last night recommends proceeding with the entire recycling of the James Whalen tugboat. That's right, scrapping it. The total cost, $589,811. The recommendation comes after the tender process where bids were received that were much higher than the estimated project cost. You don't say. You may remember the plan was to fix it and then to save it, then to cut it up and fix some part of it. Now it's all scrapping it all together. The tender included provisional items to retain various parts of the vessel. Prices ranged from $52,000 to $217,000, depending on the option that was chosen. The Transportation Museum of Thunder Bay was contacted to see if they would fund these provisional items and take ownership of the retained pieces. Well, the museum board was in favor of further discussions to preserve as much of the tug as possible. They pretty much stated they could not commit to funding or ownership with a viable long-term land use license to allow them to apply for funding. That's right, they still don't have a lease. A long-term license that the city has still not given them for Marina Park is what's slowing it down. Administration concluded last night that it's not feasible to retain any of the pieces and scrap the whole thing. The report notes that at a previous committee of the whole meeting from September of 2024, there was a recommendation to recycle the tug but preserve the bridge and the stack, and a provisional item to preserve the entire top deck for no more than $415,000. However, during the tender process, it was revealed that the stack and the bridge had been modified and they're not original pieces. So because of that, considering the financial implications of the higher bids, the report concludes that the tender should be awarded to recycle the entire tug for the stated cost. That stated cost, again, by the way, was $589,000. Now, it also mentioned last night that there were pieces of the James Whale that were already saved and already preserved. One of them, the propeller, is on display at the Thunder Bay Casino. I had no idea. Did you know that it was at the casino?
Nope.
Neither did I.
Nope.
So let's remember, it was a neglected boat at a neglected park that didn't stand a chance. After it sunk and sat at the bottom of the river for months and months, we paid over $800,000 to pick it up and to move it to a dry space where, by the way, we're paying $5,000 a month for it to sit there, where it's been ever since and rotting. Because that's what's been happening. Go ahead.
2.5 years. It's been sitting there for 2.5 years.
It's a long time. Now, wait a second. The resolution is on the floor, but $589,000 that you're about to award to someone to recycle the tug. Yes, that's right. It's right in front of them, that resolution. And this is where it got interesting. Councillor Aiello then put his hand up and is asking administration to hit the brakes and listen to what another company has to say. After this, going back and forth for almost 2 years, the referral is on the floor by Councillor Aiello to hold off because, well, another company has an idea on saving the tug and moving it for no cost to the city, and away we went. Where did this come from? It's weird. It's just different. Now, to be clear, the company did nothing wrong. They just had an idea and they emailed it to some people, in my opinion, completely innocently. But this is where it gets strange. A few councillors said they didn't get the email or the offer, and they were confused by this new option. But hey, if we're going to save $500,000, why the heck not, right? Well, no, wrong. Hang on. Councillor Aiello moved to refer it back to administration to investigate this new option and come back to council with a decision on or before April 28th. Now, wait a second. There's a resolution on the floor in front of them right now. So the referral on the floor, one by one, councillors supported it. And then Councillor Bentz, who much of the time is the voice of reason in the room, says, hang on a second. We have a tender process in front of us. Companies submitted their tenders. One of them in front of us to decide on right now. So how is this new option fair to the process? Good point, Councillor Bentz. Well, you see, it's not. It's not at all fair. That's when City Manager John Collin asked the chair for a recess. He needed 10 minutes to talk it over with the experts in attendance. So we took a break, and it didn't take 10 minutes. Then the city manager was back, and he said this. Listen carefully.
Chair, we adjourned into recess because you asked a specific question where I wish to consult with the subject matter experts that are here this evening. And your question, to paraphrase it, was, what's the advice of administration? Our advice from an administrative point of view is, although we could manage a deferral, our recommendation is that we stay the course. Three primary reasons for that. First of all, we've already gone through an open and transparent process for the tendering of this work, and there is a question of fairness. Secondly, there can be potential additional costs behind this. And thirdly, there can be potential legal considerations that we could certainly expose to council when we brought this back if it was a deferral. But there certainly are potential legal considerations in terms of the tender award process, etc.
So there's a tender process, and the city manager just told you to stay the course. At a recess and said, and I quote, "But there certainly are potential legal considerations in terms of the tender award process." That pretty much says it all, right? You're going outside of what is safe. You're putting the city at risk. You're going to tick off a couple of companies who did a pile of work to get you those tenders, only to be backdoored by a company that's not in the process. He's telling you this is a bad idea, period. So on the motion to refer the tender and give administration time to consider another idea for scrapping the tugboat, which, by the way, does not mean that we've done anything wrong yet, we're just thinking about it, it went to a vote. Are you ready? 9. That's right, 9 councillors went against the recommendation of administration And a strong recommendation from the city manager who said, and I quote, "But there certainly are potential legal considerations in terms of the tender award process." 9 of your councillors ignored that advice and voted in favor of a referral. 3 were opposed to it. And it's worth noting who those 3 were. Mayor Boschkoff, Councillor Hamilton, and Councillor Bentz were all opposed. Now it's right back to administration, at the will of council, to investigate an innocent idea from an outside company potentially breaking the tender process that could have legal implications. Because 9 of them don't care what the experts think. Let's give it a shot anyway. What are you thinking? Years of neglect on the tug from other terms of council got us here, with wishy-washy back and forth about the tug in front of council, costing us another $500,000 to send it to a scrapyard. How does this keep happening? And what will it take for councillors to pay attention to process, to rules, and to the advice of experts? The arrogance that so many showed in that room and around that table last night and week after week is actually astonishing to me. And at the same time, we are at a new level of complete embarrassment. If they're making decisions like this right in front of our eyes, despite the risk and despite the jeopardy it could cause, God help us. There are still 2 years left of this group. The decision on the tug comes back on or before April 28th. Hopefully, they're smart enough to listen to the advice of experts and stay the course, like City Manager John Cullen told them to do last night. But with this group, all bets are off. It's starting to make me think that even the 1.1% raise was too much. The meeting was done in 2 hours and adjourned at 8:33.
So do you think when they come back again, this decision could be changed again?
Listen,
Like,
the amount of
it's
risk
back and
that's
forth.
now... John Cullen could not have been more clear.
Yeah.
He went into recess with experts that we pay a pile of money to know things. And he came back and said, this is a bad idea. Stay the course, recycle the boat, be done with it. But 9 of them pushed back and said, no. Let's see what this other idea is. The other idea potentially could put us in jeopardy. But you chose to do it anyway. Why? What is it that we don't know about this other idea? And again, the company that submitted it completely innocently said, hey, we got an idea.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't part of the tender process. There's a legal process to all of this.
So
why would we send it back to make administration run in circles again for another month, putting this off for another month?
So this company, could they have submitted this tender
Sure.
process at a price of 0 to
Sure,
say, hey, we'll take it?
They could
now?
have, but this
Right?
is the whole thing. These counselors saw an idea.
Yeah.
Oh, it may cost us nothing. Yeah, but there was a tender process that you're ignoring to get out of the $500,000 that you're spending. But let's keep in mind, that $500,000 to recycle it is on top of the $800,000 it cost us to take it off the bottom of the river because we neglected it. Half of the group in that room is responsible for that tug sinking, period. It was neglected. And here we are. And now half of them, or 9 of them, had a chance last night to get out of another $589,000 bill by going around the process and doing something that your administration strongly suggests you don't. And they're doing it anyway. What happens on or before the 28th, I'm hoping that they come to their senses and say, okay, this is a bad idea. We'll stick to the process.
I was doing some quick math quickly, as you had mentioned, of that it's costing $5,000 a month to sit on dry land.
Yes.
It's been roughly 30 months. You do the math. We're talking 150 grand. That's
And so
accumulating there too.
So the other part of this that it was mentioned by administration last night, if we change this and things don't happen till August, you're paying another $5,000 in a month between now and August, September. You're just going to keep piling on. Just scrap it.
Yeah.
But they're not. And I have no idea why. And I also have no idea why we pay these experts in administration to give you advice for you to go, no, we like our idea better.
When you put this all aside and you just think about how sad this is, the history of the James Whalen since 1905.
Yeah, it should never have got to this.
It should never have gotten there. And that's it's really sad that we're talking about it in this fashion. Because, so much history with this boat.
I'm still a little bitter as a boat owner. Got a $40 bilge pump in the bottom of my boat just in case it ever took on water. Sure, it's not the size of a tug, nor does it weigh as much as a tug does. Maybe it needs a bigger pump.
Yeah.
But it was just neglected. It was missed, and it's cost us over $1 million. And the price is just going to keep going up, especially if we get ourselves into trouble over this.
That is so unfortunate.
It
really is. All right. That's your City Council Roundup. Thank you, John. A reminder, you can access the Roundup if you missed it or want to hear it again. A few ways. 807-344-8229, our T-Bay Tel Talk and text line. In just a bit, you'll be able to text the word council, and you'll get the full link there, or you can go to our website, 999thebay.ca. Meeting next week?
Some big things coming in April. Watch this space.
Right. Here we go. It's 8:25.